Coming in at tweak number 30 is a tweak called InfiniBoard. Basically, it allows you to place more than the usual amount of applications on one page. Also, those work with folders too, so you can have more than the usual amount of folders. Basically, it's scroll up and down. So for those of you guys who don't like a huge amount of pages on your iOS device, you can actually just shorten it up by having it all on one page. Also, we have InfiniDock, which comes in at number 29, and which allows you to have more than the usual amount of Apple applications on your iOS dock. So basically, with an iPad, you usually can put about 6 at the most. With this, you can go ahead and have 4 shown at a time, and then you can put as many as you want in there after that, which is kind of cool. Next is Multicon Mover. Basically, it allows you to more easily move applications. So let's say I want to move all these gaming applications possibly to a folder, which won't work, unfortunately. With folders, as I'm going to show you here, it won't work, which I wish it would because there's my games folder. But I'm going to go back and select the applications again simply by holding on to them to make them wiggle. And then go ahead and select them again, and a little red check mark will show up. Go to the page in which you want it, hit home, and then it'll make that work like so. So I'm going to go ahead and lock those into place like so. Next one is called SBS Settings. Basically, SBS setting is pretty cool. It's a really famous one. Basically, it gives you the option to more easily do things like go into airplane mode, turn on and off Bluetooth, which is very handy for me because I'm oftentimes using the wireless keyboard. Possibly to adjust brightness. That'll be useful to the majority of people as well. Also, your Wi-Fi, it comes in very good use, and there's plenty of other things you can actually add in there. So I overall very much like it. Next thing is Tab Plus. Basically, what Tab Plus allows you to do is have more than the usual 9 amount of tabs open in Safari. You can actually go into like an infinity amount of tabs in Safari, which is actually pretty nice. Overall, I do like that one as well because, as I said, you know, I use a lot of tabs on Safari, and I find it to be very easy to actually go through and have more than just the limited 8 or 9 tabs on Safari. The next tweak is called AlphaCon. Basically, what AlphaCon allows you to do is adjust the transparency of your application simply by going into settings and scrolling down into the AlphaCon section, or in the extensions section. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, and it's going to have the options to enable or disable it in certain areas like home screen, folders, switcher, dock, and so on. And then you're going to have the alpha value in which you can go ahead and switch. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the middle, and that'll be kind of like a middle rated transparency. So as you guys can see right there, it just adjusted the transparency of my applications, and you can adjust that in certain areas like the dock and so on, like I said. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and shut that off for our next Cydia tweak. And this next Cydia tweak is called Android Delete. It's basically a different way to delete your applications. Instead of just hitting that X and hitting delete like the majority of us do, you can go ahead and take the application and actually drag it on to the trash can below, much like you can do in Android, as you guys can see right there. And then the trash can goes orange, and you have the option to delete like so. You can also still hit the little black X, and it'll work just fine. Next one is a little fun tweak called GraviBoard, in which makes your application zero gravity. And you can get all these Cydia tweaks for free, but some of them are paid like GraviBoard, but you can also get those for free by bypassing the payments and so on. But basically, by hitting the activation method, which was holding the home button for me, you can go ahead and make your applications drop into a zero gravity environment, in which basically allows you to throw them around. They float. They are controlled by gyroscope, so you can go ahead and move your iPad around, and they'll go different places on the screen and so on. It's just a little fun tweak. Next one is called Gridlock, and basically it allows you to take the applications out of order. Usually when you're readjusting where your applications are, it goes to the next spot available, such as in folders or even just on the home page here. It basically just goes to the next spot available. With Gridlock, it'll allow you to go out of order. So as you guys can see, I'm doing like a tic-tac-toe pattern here. You can also do it with folders and so on, or within folders. Overall, you know, it just allows more freedom of movement with the application. The next tweak is a little fun tweak in which whenever you plug your iOS device into a battery source, it basically just shows a battery animation. It's called Animate Battery. So when I plug it in here, you're going to see the animation, and it goes from red all the way up until green until the certain percentage of battery that I'm at. It's just a little fun free tweak available on Cydia. And the next one I want to talk about is very useful for all you guys who download a lot of Cydia Tweaks and applications overall. It's called Delete, which allows you to delete these Cydia applications and tweaks right off your homepage here instead of having to go into Cydia, which can take a while, and it's very time consuming to go from application to application within Cydia and go ahead and restart your Springboard and so on. So instead of just doing that, you can delete them right on your homepage. Next thing is Winterboard. It's very popular. Many people have it. It's pretty much a key accessory to a jailbroken device because it is what allows you to have themes. So if you're looking into themes and you want to get themes and you see those on Cydia and you hear about them a lot, Winterboard is definitely something you need to get because it basically allows you to enable these themes and manage these themes. So as you guys can see, I have stuff like MacBook Air keyboard, which really doesn't work. I have the Nexus S1 wallpaper up there, which works great. It's basically just an enabler for themes, a manager, and a place for themes overall. Next one is one that is useful to some people. It's called Flip Over. And basically what Flip Over allows you to do is whenever you lay your device at 180-degree angle on a flat surface, it will shut off your screen. So instead of having to hit that power button every single time, this works better with the iPhone and iPod Touch. So as you guys can see, with the iPad, it's not as comfortable. But you just lay down your iPhone on a table face down, and it'll go ahead and shut it off automatically, which is pretty neat. Next one is called List Launcher, in which if you scroll over to your search here, it'll go ahead and put a list of your applications instead. It'll show all of your applications, and it's easier to manage, and if you click on the applications themselves, it'll actually take you into the application, which I find a little bit easier to use. So the next tweak is called Folder Enhancer, and basically it allows you to have more than the usual amount of applications within a folder. On top of that, you can actually put a folder within a folder within a folder and fill those up completely of applications or more folders, which is actually kind of weird, but it works that way. So basically it allows you to possibly, if you have more than one games folder because you can't fit all the applications in one, this will allow you to do that, and it kind of switches up the view of the folder, but overall it's still very easy to use and very nice, very useful for me because as you guys can see, I have 2 games folder. Next one I want to talk about is Pull to Refresh Safari. Basically, it allows you to simply pull to refresh instead of having to hit that arrow that is in a curly motion at the top where you can type in your URL. Basically, it says release to refresh, and when you do so, it'll go ahead and release your page. It's as simple as that. Next one is called Retina Pad, and basically Retina Pad allows you to take those iPhone and iPod Touch applications that are made for the iPhone and iPod Touch, not the resolution of the iPad screen, and whenever you zoom into them, you know how whenever you go into the 2x view, it will really make the application look crappy, in which I'll show you guys here in a second. Basically what it does is it takes that very pixelated picture and it optimizes it to make it look a lot more clear. So when you go into Messenger here, it used to be very, very blurry, and now it actually looks very nice. In fact, it looks very nice to the point where it actually looks almost as nice as what you'd see on the iPhone and iPod Touch, as you guys can see right there with me zooming in and out. Next Cydia tweak is called Barrel, and this is personally one of my favorite out of the 30 Cydia tweaks today. Basically what it allows you to do is alter your scrolling animation. So as you guys can see, whenever you scroll, it looks a lot different. And by going into settings, and you can actually go into Barrel in the extensions area up top here. And when you click on there, you can actually change the animations, in which you can go ahead and slide from page to page, which is very nice. It's a very creative Cydia tweak, and I really enjoy it because, as you guys can see, it's very different than the usual boring scrolling that is on your iOS device. Next one is called Camera Wallpaper, and basically it allows you to make your wallpaper a little bit more unique, and it works a lot better on the iPhone and iPod Touch because it's optimized for the iPhone and iPod Touch. By simply doing your activation method, you can go ahead and turn on a background camera, and then you have it here in the background. And it is optimized for the iPhone and iPod Touch, but it also works for the iPad in the left-hand corner there. It's very interesting because you can actually, instead of having that plain old wallpaper, you can actually have your camera front or back facing working as that wallpaper. Next Cydia tweak is called Double Tap to Open. This is great for all you guys who get really irritated because you accidentally open up an application by simply tapping it once. This time you have to double tap in order to enter the application. Very much easier to use for those of you guys who get confused. The next tweak is called Page Names, and basically what it allows you to do is assign names to each individual page. So as you guys can see right here, there's Spotlight, Page 1, Page 2, and Page 3. So let's say I want to go ahead and change Page 1 to whatever I want it to be called. Go ahead and hold an app icon on that page, click up at the top, and you can go ahead and type in anything you want, which I'm going to go ahead and type in page or whatever, and that's basically how it's done. You go ahead and hit home button, and it'll go ahead and lock it in there, and basically all it does is add a little title to your pages. Next one is called iSwipe. This is actually a very famous tweak in which allows you to have swiping on your keyboard. Now, it doesn't exactly work the greatest as of now, but it's still very interesting. Basically, if you want to type something like iPhone, for example, you can go ahead and click and drag on one key to the next keys and finally to the end key, and there it is, the word shows up. And then also below that word, it'll have a series of different words in which you might have meant to type. So as you guys can see, I just typed in iPad and it went to iPod. So like I said, it doesn't work exactly perfect, but it's still very interesting. And then I'm going to go ahead and do dog, which is noticeable, so it works. And it also does show those keywords like dog, dig, and stuff, which it might have misdone. Now, the next one is called Stayed Open, and I'm going to go ahead and go into the App Store to show you guys this. What it allows you to do is actually download an application, and instead of exiting out of the App Store itself, it'll keep you in the App Store. So the application will go download, but it will go ahead and exit out of the, it won't go ahead and exit out of the application App Store. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my password here off the screen, and once that's typed in, the application is going to begin downloading, and it just started downloading behind the background, and it did not exit out of the App Store, which I think is great because oftentimes I find myself downloading a ton of applications, and I hate having to re-enter the application App Store and go ahead and let it reload and so on. So there's the application loading. Next one is called iType Apple Icon. It basically just simply allows you to enter an Apple icon into your keyboard, which is actually kind of cool. Now, it doesn't exactly work the greatest with iSwipe. I don't even think it works at all. Basically, by going in the notes here, going into return, holding A, you'll have the Apple icon there. And like I said, it doesn't work with iSwipe because when you try to pull over, it unfortunately doesn't do so. But the Apple icon does show up there. It only shows up on iOS devices. Unfortunately, if you're on the computer, you won't be able to see it. But it is very interesting to use. Next one is called Retina App Icons. And personally, when you download it, it automatically is activated in the background. It changes your for say crappy icons, I should say, like when you get Winterboard on the iPad, it doesn't look the greatest, but then once you get Retina app icons, it kind of tidies that up and makes it look a little bit better, makes it less pixelated, and so on. Next one is called Page Pusher. I'm going to go ahead and go into settings to show you this. Basically what it does with your menus is adds a little bit of more creativity and difference in your menus. So when you go into your menus and you select something, like I'm going to go here to Activator, and I click anywhere, it'll actually have the page flip like it does in the maps and so on. It does this every now and then in other applications, but if you want to have this on all your menus, it can work in settings as well as different menus as it is. Next one is called Bytefont. And basically what Bytefont is it's like a Winterboard for your fonts. When you download fonts off of Cydia, it makes it easier for you to manage your fonts through this one. If you are one who does a lot of font changing on their iOS device, I don't do that a lot, but I have done it before, and Bytefont just definitely helps me out in the process of doing that. Next one is a fairly interesting one for all you guys who have an Android phone or something like that, and maybe you have an iPad, is Android Lock Screen. Now, it is optimized for the iPhone and iPod Touch, but it works great on the iPad as well, and basically allows you to have an Android typed lock screen, which is basically the drag against the dots and so on. And the next Cydia tweak is one of my favorites and most useful. It's called Insomnia. It's more so of a Cydia application, but I would still call it a tweak. Basically, when you turn it on, it allows it to run the Wi-Fi in the background. So for say if you shut off your iOS device, it would normally disconnect from Wi-Fi after a while, and that would save battery life. But for say you want it to stay online, maybe if you're listening to a podcast and you want to shut off the screen, you can go ahead and do so without it connecting to the Wi-Fi with it. And our last Cydia tweak is called Icon Renamer, and it's a fairly famous Cydia tweak out on Cydia. And basically what it allows you to do is hold down on an application, double tap on that application, and rename your application. So let's say we have calendar here, and I just want to shorten it up and say CA, and go ahead and click apply. It'll actually apply that as the title of that application. Works very well.